Well, they left it till like 2 years before we got to the end of 2024, which I think is tremendous. If we're talking about today, less than 24 hours, but Seth Rollins and CM Punk just walked out onto Monday Night Raw and they said, 1, do you want to get pumped for the Netflix show? We'll do it for you. And 2, would you like a segment of the year contender? And apparently we must have said yes. Because of course they are going to be main eventing the first ever Raw on Netflix, which does go down in 7 days. And yes, all essentially WWE did must have told them was, Seth, you're going to go out there, and then Punk, you're going to go out there, and you can say whatever the flub you want. I mean, I'm sure they agreed on all this beforehand, or maybe it was just an open ceremony, Mr. Wayne kind of predicament, but you need to go and watch it. Like, it's everything you want from a... Listen, I like goofy wrestling for life, as I cut myself off. But when you've got a serious program and you want something to feel like a main event, you want people to tune in, and you really want to sell a blood feud, this is the type of stuff you have to do in 2024. Because not only were they sort of basing it in reality, stuff we'll get into in just 1 second, but it was the way they were weaving back into kayfabe, and I shouldn't say kayfabe, you know what I mean, weaving it back into the storyline. And it just made your brain go, well, man, all of this feels totally, wotally legit. And at no point did it feel bogus, at no point did it feel silly, and at no point did it feel like it was, I don't want to say pro wrestling, because it was more pro wrestling than sports entertainment. I mean, I don't mind either of those terms, but hopefully you get what I'm saying, which is kind of ironic in what CM Punk said when he went back to AEW for the first time. But, you know, you have essentially Seth Rollins saying, you took your ball and went home. So CM Punk says, that's company speak, man. That's half the problem. Did Stone Cold Steve Austin take his ball and go home? And obviously the personal attack was Becky Lynch hasn't been around, who's his husband, of course, or his wife, either one. You can pick whichever word you want. Did she take her ball and go home? So you kind of sit there and go, well, that's a very, very good point. But then Seth says, excuse me, you went away for 10 years. You ran this company down. You went in your friend's podcast talking about the Colt Cabana stuff. And then you even went to the competition just to earn a paycheck. And only then you came back because you'd burnt all your bridges. So you go, well, that's a very, very good point too. And they just did this around about, 10, 15 minutes? I may be exaggerating there. And because I think both ideas are coming from a real place, you just go, yeah, all right. Once again, I totally believe what you're saying here. And by the time you got the end of it, and Seth Rollins was really like, man, you're a cancer, and I've got to rip you out of this business, otherwise you're just going to make it worse. I was so down to see it. And I don't even know who I want to win. I think that's the sort of real genius of all of it, is there is no good guys or bad guys. You decide. Is CM Punk right or is Seth Rollins right? Maybe you're just a CM Punk guy and you're going to cheer him until the cows come home, even though you understand that maybe he's a bit on the bad side here. And you can do the same thing for Seth Rollins as well. And that's not something I want to see throughout professional wrestling. Sometimes these things happen and people go into hyperbole mode. They're like, oh, we're really with that throughout the whole 3 hour show. I'm like, no. You have to pick and choose these moments, because sometimes it is great just to have someone like Ludwig Kaiser, right? Who's like, man, I'm just so evil. And Sheamus comes out and whips his ass. So that's pro wrestling too. It's super duper fun, which is the main thing. As long as it's entertaining, you've done something right. But I think there are only a few other people that could have come out and done such a good a job like CM Punk and Seth Rollins did here. And that's because it's based in real life personal beef, right? Seth Rollins thinks you stay and you help the company. CM Punk obviously, and he did say this way back in the day when he was the WWE champion for like 434 days, whenever it was, he would drop this into all the promos. I love where I work. I hate the management. I love where I work. I hate the guy at the top. And he did reference Vince McMahon here. He didn't say his name, but he was essentially going, you know, he loved you and you loved him and you kissed each other's ass or whatever, whereas I couldn't take it anymore and that's why I went away. So they are two very similar but two very conflicting ways to look at this situation. And it's just tremendous and it's just brilliant. And if the secret sauce of pro wrestling is Jeopardy when you go into a wrestling match, then this deserves some kind of a prize. It should go on the game show Jeopardy and win all the awards, all the money. Because I really don't know what you do. I don't think it can be a one and done. I'm going to assume, given the way that WWE operates at the moment, that they already know the plan. They should go 3 matches. Punk should win one, Seth should win one, and the third one, who the flub knows. I suppose it all depends on what you're doing next. And I don't think you need to do it as a back-to-back-to-back thing, even though that is usually the WWE way. If you want one of them to go off, maybe even CM Punk will win a championship, and then post-WrestleMania, we get to match 2 or match 3. I think that's fine as well. You could even have CM Punk win the first 2, and then he wins a championship, and then somehow you get Seth Rollins back involved, and Seth Rollins then beats him, and he wins a title, and then even though they're 2-1 in the record, well, Seth Rollins won a title off CM Punk, so that has extra gravitas as well. It should be a forever feud. It should be something we stretch out throughout 2025. Give it a break, then maybe come back to it in 2027. They should always be picking at each other and talking about each other. They should never be friends. I never want them to coexist. I always want them to hate each other. even when you do have a determined winner and loser. But it was just so compelling, right? And at the end of the day, we watch television, no matter if it's wrestling or a TV show or a movie, to be sort of drawn in and again feel like we're in some mystery world. And that's exactly what CM Punk and Seth Rollins did. And I say bravo to both of them for going out there and creating magic, to use the words that people like to use. They didn't even get into a fight. And I thought that was smart as well, because we have seen them brawl already. But it was more of just an intense stare down at the end. They'd said their pieces. It's the classic, right? There's nothing else to say. You finally said everything you wanted to say to me. I've said everything back. And once again, you choose which way you want to walk now. Absolutely an incredible way to end the 2024 year for Monday Night Raw, especially because they said goodbye to the USA Network. We got a cool video where, yes, we saw, I may be missing some, I may be adding some in my brain, but Bryan Danielson, Chris Jericho, I think Edge was in it too. And that's a huge plus as well. Again, as I always say, I talked about this on Ups and Downs, which is the more performative version of this. If you'd like to check it out, please do. And then subscribe to me and subscribe to What Culture as well. The button's right there looking at you, enticing you with its eyes. But the old WWE being like they've left the company, let's pretend they don't exist anymore, was done. Because one, everybody comes back anyway. And two, the fans know where people are. And if you're a casual fan, you probably don't care where Edge is right now. You're probably just flapping along in your real life, and every now and then you stop into wrestling. So that was a nice touch. And of course, I'm sure if WWE was leaving entirely, maybe it wouldn't have been so nice. But SmackDown's there on USA Networks every Friday night, and that's going to be going on for the next 5 years. But it was just a nice reminder, really, because apart from that brief gap around 2000 or whatever it was, WWE Raw has been on the USA Network since 1993, whenever the flub it started. That's a pretty impressive statistic, although as someone living in the UK especially, the fact that all their content is going to Netflix makes me so damn happy, because it's just an easier way to watch. I can finally cancel all my other subscriptions, which I've been wanting to do for years. The only reason I've ever kept them on is for professional wrestling. So yes, couple of thumbs up for this promo section. And the rest of Raw was okay. Well, nothing bad about it. The only real negative that I took away is that I'm just done with Damian Priest fighting the Judgment Day, but that's not the end of the world. Because we had that 6-man tag that was still good. I think we should probably do one last match with Finn Balor, and then we should separate them, although I kind of also think they should both go to SmackDown. Given that we are going to have this real sort of extra brand split, for lack of a better term, when we have this transfer window. I think people like a Damian Priest, a Finn Balor, maybe even a Jey Uso, a Drew McIntyre, you can move them all over to Friday nights and just push the absolute shit out of them, because they're all good to go, right? They're all good to become megastars, which is a real testament for WWE for allowing these guys to shine, and for the guys to take it back and knocking it out the park. But yeah, the 6-man tag was fine. Damian Priest got the win. I just love seeing, especially in 2024, which hasn't always been the way, a company go, this big Tom Harley, which is going to push him to the moon. He's going to whoop everyone. Even when he's taking on multiple people, he's going to whoop everyone. And surprise, surprise, here we are at the end of the year. And Damian Priest just feels like the coolest person ever. And I don't think that's a fluke. And the War Raiders and the Judgment Day, they can all go on to do something. It just feels like we've come to the end of the line. Not a bad way. I mean, giving Judgment Day new music was the worst idea ever, especially in the current climate, because there are so many people that need new music. And WWE, I think they started with the Judgment Day because they know the Judgment Day is about to break up and go in two different directions. We had that backstage skit where Finn and Liv still don't like each other. So why keep paying the licensing fee, right, for the Alter Bridge song? But I think you probably should have fixed some other people. But hopefully that just means everyone that does need brand new music is going to get new music. But it was fine. But it was the only thing, as much as I enjoyed the match, was like, emotionally, I'm done with it, which was the opposite for the Intercontinental title women's tournament. That's really getting good. It's Dakota Kai versus Lyra Valkyria in the finals, and I'm all about that, man. Would I have liked Io Sky in there? Yes, I'm a big fan of Zoe Stark, so that would have been good too. But much as we've sort of, given some extra, what's the word I'm looking for, power, importance behind Chelsea Green, let's do the same with Dakota Kai, and let's do the same with Lyra Valkyria. And both of them are essentially baby faces right now. And, you can kind of go whichever way you want with them. But I suppose Dakota Kai is more established than Lyra Valkyria. So if you did give it to Lyra and you push her to the moon and maybe give her a title run like she had down in NXT, that's only going to benefit her because her initial start on the main roster was good. Then she kind of faded away. Dakota Kai's had a very hard year because she's been injured. So this is the thing that I think is important. Like, those belts will become more prominent and important over time. It's just how they work. You have to get used to them. But let's try and build some people up at the same time. If it doesn't work, doesn't matter. You can try again. So really enjoyed all that. And I thought they were two good matches too. And then the New Day are just the greatest thing ever right now, as far as I'm concerned. I think they're wonderful. They come out, get booed so much, the Dominic Mysterio treatment, until Jey Uso gets the biggest pop you've ever heard. Once again, the guy should probably be world champion if we're basing things off pops. And I love him. I would love to see him be put in that spot. He's not really there to talk to them, although we did tease that it could lead somewhere, so that's exciting. Maybe we can do another New Day versus Usos match. I don't know. But then Solo Sikoa pops up on the big screen after Jey Uso says the Bloodline 2.0 and Drew McIntyre are idiots. He challenges Drew McIntyre. And this was just a way for Solo to go, I'm going to beat Roman Reigns on next week's episode of Raw for the Ula Fala, which I kind of want him to do. I don't know what's happened. I think Roman Reigns is a megastar. I love him. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a legend. But I just really like Solo Sikoa for no reason whatsoever. And it won't happen, but it'd be cool if it would do. Drew McIntyre beats up Jey Uso. And now next week on that amazing episode of Raw, which is like a mini WrestleMania, we're getting Drew versus Dre. Perfectly fine with me. I assume Drew McIntyre wins, but I'm 100% sure. And then we went right to Chad Gable versus Otis, which I also thought you could do on that Raw. Chad Gable gets the win, but he's another dude. I'm going to keep throwing these names at you. Put him on SmackDown and throw him right into that top mix. The only disappointment here was that we waited so long to get to it. I think we had lost the momentum. But people love Otis, so it worked. And Chad Gable is so good at like people hating him that it worked too. And I think it's difficult. I do understand. And I'm happy that he got the win. But I don't want Otis to get lost in the shuffle. I think Otis is a diamond in the rough, which actually may be more unfair than I mean it to be. But like when he won that Money in the Bank and everything with Mandy Rose, we never really capitalized on that because of the pandemic. And I think we could go back to that at some point. But a really good match. Chad Gable is tremendous. Otis is, once again, just what a fantastic babyface human being. And I even liked all the shenanigans on the outside. So yeah, that was excellent. And I suppose the other big news is that Egg Slash is not Egg Slash, because we saw that big egg with a slash through it the last few weeks. It's 100% Pentagon. Otherwise, I'm sure Penta's lawyers are ringing WWE right now. It's like, you just put our client's mask on your screen, and there's no way that's happening. It kind of sounds like it could be Pentagon and Rey Mysterio taking on the New Day. I don't care how he introduced Pentagon. The fact he's coming in on that first Netflix show gives him so much. It's just going to make him feel like the biggest badass ever. But I want there to be a big plan for him. I don't want him to fall into LWO territory for obvious reasons. And I think WWE really should throw him into an Intercontinental title match. They should throw him into a US title match, depending on which side of the fence he's going to be on. But I get teaming in with Rey Mysterio because, we're nerds, man. We know who Pentagon is. But once again, if you're just a WWE guy and you're not aware of the people outside the bubble, teaming with Rey Mysterio just tells people this guy's a big deal, right? That's why he's teaming with Rey Mysterio. And I think Pentagon is money. I think he's so marketable. And I think WWE is going to turn him into a beast. And I think that's going to be awesome. And I think the presentation is going to blow our minds. And I suppose the other thing to talk about is the Ludwig Kaiser Sheamus stuff, which was great. Ludwig Kaiser comes out. He says, I'm awesome. I hate Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker's not there. Sheamus makes a return and he beats his ass. Fine, you should do that next week as well, because then I think you really have a varied card. Because you have the finals of the Intercontinental Tournament, which again, I think Lyra Valkyria is going to win. It's kind of what my tum-tum is telling me. Then you can do Ludwig versus Sheamus, which should just be a brutal, hard-hitting match. You've got your blood feud between CM Punk and Seth Rollins. You've got your kind of over-the-top, we'll use that word again, sports entertainment stuff with the Ula Fala and the Tribal Combat match, which also will lean into the hardcore stuff too, or the street fight, whatever you want to call it. It's an incredible card on paper. And of course, we had the video for Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan for the championship, and that should be on there too, because you can do a championship change. And you've essentially told everyone, haha, we have given you everything. Would you like to put a hat on? And we learned that John Cena is going to be on next week's show. And I would imagine The Rock is going to be there too. Even if The Rock isn't going to be at WrestleMania, you still want him on that show. He has a relationship with Netflix. He's made Netflix movies before. It should just be it'll be 3 hours long, maybe even longer, but it should just be a 3-hour fest of goodness, and you should walk away super duper pumped about WWE being on Netflix. And I think that's the way it's going to go. I know I'm excited about it. But yeah, in terms of a go-home show for the end of the year or a go-home show for that Raw, really tremendous stuff. And a lot of that, if not all of it, does rest on the shoulders of CM Punk and Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins has evolved out of his clown character so well while still retaining the elements that people like. And CM Punk is a wrestling anomaly, man. Whether you like him, whether you don't like him, regardless of what you think about him as a human being, as a professional wrestler, he's all time. He's so damn great. You will probably never find anyone that can do this kind of promo as well as him. I think he's in the GOAT category when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it's brilliant. And I really hope whatever they do have planned can live up to this. And I'm sure it will. They rarely ever drop the ball. But superb stuff. As I said on Ups and Downs, it is golden up-worthy material. And I ain't got no problem saying. Now, of course, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Make sure you click the video on the screen, which is me talking about more professional wrestling. And leave a comment below, because again, I'm always wrong. And I don't know unless you tell me. Otherwise, it's grillandmind.com/Simon. You can Simon get 10% off or more right now. Boxing and they'll sell 30% off, and they sponsor the brand new Simon Miller Fitness YouTube channel, which does launch in January. I make sure I give you the information close to the time, but please subscribe, because I'm starting from scratch. Very, very scary. Otherwise, it is patreon.com/Simon Miller 316. Simon Miller 316 on all social media. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo for personalized videos. ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller for dumb t-shirts like this. I have no idea what that was, because I have all things silent in my room, so that's terrifying. Take care, my friends. I'll see you soon.